Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video I would like to show you one chart of Adrienne Rich. She was born on 16 May. And in this video I would like to show you a few methods, how we are using them in Vedic astrology. We will answer the question what it means that the 7 lords in the 9th house, the Venus exaltation, how to use the 2nd house from the Venus, and how to see the 1st and 2nd marriage in the Navamsha. All that we will be examining in the chart of Adrienne Rich. If you found this video interesting, please click the like button, and if you'd like to be notified about similar videos in the future, please click the subscribe button with the bell notification. So without further ado, let's go straight to the video. Adrienne was born on 16 May 1929 on 310 and Baltimore, Maryland. If you want to see her birth details, you can go to astrodata.com. So if we put her birth details, we get Virgo Lagna, we have Moon in the 12th house in Leo, Sun in the 9th house, and in the Navamsha, we have the Ascendant in Taurus, and in Dashamsa, we have Virgo Ascendant. So we know that Adrienne has the younger sister. The father was a pathologist and he also was the chairman of pathology, and the mother was artist. She was pianist and composer. She also had the elder sister, and the father was pushing her very much because he wanted to make her the prodigy child. So from the very early age he was very much focused on her development, and we can see that in her chart because the Jupiter is afflicted, it's combust in the 9th house. This normally shows when the Jupiter is very much afflicted, like in the curse, it is giving the problems with father, and here the Jupiter is combust and it's also in Rasi Santi, which is the beginning of the sign, and this can affect here also the houses loaded by Jupiter, which is the 4th and 7th lord in this chart. So 4th lord showing the property and also home and also a mental peace. And the 7th house has to do with relationship with the first spouse especially. So this is Sandy and combust, so this can also provide problems for the first serious relationship, first serious marriage. So if you want to see a little bit more about the parents, in the D12 we have Mercury and Venus in the ascendant, which shows that the 10th house from the 4th, which shows the profession of the mother, as Venus and Mercury normally shows some kind of artist profession, that's true. And for Aquarius Lagna, her 6th house will be Cancer. Now 6th house is related to career life of the father because it's 10th from the 9th, and this is Cancer and loaded by the moon, so it shows it can be medical profession, it can be something related to sociology, something related to food, everything which moon is ruling. So the father was in the medical profession, and we know that even at the end of the college she was already getting awards for the poetry. So her career life was basically, she was a writer, she was a poet, and also she was an activist, first in the anti-war movement and also later on related to a feminist. And in 76 she was in a relationship, in her second serious relationship with Michelle Cliff, and Michelle was also involved in gender studies, in colonialism, and in all this social, very much political activists. So then these two were together having this common path, common direction in life. She was also very much active in the anti-war movement, especially in the early 2000s. She started being very active, but even before with her first spouse, even using her apartment with the spouse together for funding the Black Panther movement. And so she was very, from the beginning, she was also anti-colonialism and very much in the anti-war movement, and then very much into feminism. So the Venus at Makaraka is very strong because it's exalted Vargotam. Vargotam means the same sign in the Rasi and in the Navamsha. And there is also a Parivartan because the Venus is in the Jupiterian sign and Jupiter is in the Venusian sign. So they exchange their placements. This is called in Sanskrit Parivartana. And this yoga is very strong. It's like 100% yoga. And it's very positive here because it's related to a good house of 7 and 9. And this also may show that things related to married life, things related to relationship, to partnership, like related to the 7th house, they will become very open and worldly, international. The person will also try to philosophize about them because both the 9th house and the Jupiter are connected to the 7th house, and also the Sun is involved there, which may suggest that this will transform into some kind of political movement or some mission of the soul, because both Sun and Makaraka are involved, which are connected to this very deep topics. So we see that this dispositor of Sun, dispositor of Atmakaraka, and both these yogas also of Jupiter and Venus, which are the Dvigurus, very intellectual planet, are connected. So this we can see that there is connection of partnership and relationship related also to her talk about this. And also we see that Venus is in the sign of Pisces, and Pisces is the 12th house, natural 12th house. And this 12th house has to do with either being bounded or being liberated. The Pisces, the sign, is very much connected to the liberation. Even it's said that when Ketu is in Cancer or a Pisces in the Navamsha, then there is a chance for liberation in this life through either Shaiva or a Vaishnava path. So this is also showing that when the Venus is in that placement, then the person may have very high ideals. It can be when Venus is exalted, Vargotam especially, normally this shows delayed marriage until 31 and so on. But in this case, it shows that she is very much connecting this relationship with the topic of freedom. And we also see that this Atmakaraka in the Navamsha is also Lagna Lord. So this also supports that the person will achieve a very high position in life, will have Raja Yoga or success. And from Atmakaraka in Pisces to the ascendant in Lagna and Taurus, we have 3 houses, and 3 has connected to some battle, enterprise, courageous. So this 3rd house become very much pronounced in her life because it's the Karaka. It's the planet which normally signifies this 3rd house. So every house has its own Karaka. So for 3rd house, this is the Mars. Also for 6 is also the Mars. So in the Navamsha, we see also that this Mars is in the 5th house, in the Trikona. So this also, the 5th house very much depicts our nature, how we are, our skills, our knowledge, and also very much our personality. So if she has that Mars in the 5th house, this also will show a person who is fighting for something. And there is the Graha Drishti, the aspect between the Mars and the Venus in the 11th house. This is both Graha Drishti because the Mars and Venus are respecting each other, but also this is the Rasi Drishti because these are the dual signs, and dual signs also respect each other. So this we may say that this fight can also be about related to relationships very much. In this chart, because there is Virgo, we can have 2 Arudas. One is in Cancer, so this will be Mars in Cancer, so this can be very social, also in the fighting Aruda. The another will jump to Scorpio because the Lagna Lord Rahu is in 8, so the Aruda will be in the 3rd. But because 9th is stronger, the Aruda will settle finally in the 9th house. And then we have the Sun, which is showing the politics, and Mercury and Jupiter in 9th will show something very intellectual, writing. And we also know that she was teaching in 2 very important universities, and she was a professor at these universities. This also shows related to the 9th house, to university, very international, and so on. So this 10th Lord Mercury is also involved in that yoga of 9th house, and also this is 10th from Moon, which also shows her career life. This is a very important point denoting her career life. So this is the 9th house with Jupiter and Mercury. So very intellectual type of career life, like teaching, promoting. The Sun placement there will show the political or activist blend in this yoga. So this is very interesting how one yoga of this Jupiter, Mercury, Sun, this both shows the problem with the father, the pushing father, because the Jupiter is combust, and Lagna Lord is in 9th house, and the 9th has Sun, so there's a lot of Sun energy, this combustion. Lagna Lord behaves like the Sun, and the Sun itself is in the 9th house, so this is very this burning feeling of burning related to the 9th house of father. Because the 7th Lord is also in the Rasi Sandhi, so this is also showing this misfortune. Here we say, but because the 9th house may show fortune, but also may show misfortune. If 7th Lord is the 9th house, then we have to see how the other placement related to Venus and Upapada are there, because this may indicate also some misfortune if these planets become quite negative. So we also know that her first marriage was with Alfred Conrad, who was the professor of economics, and they married on 26 June 1953. And this was Dasha of Moon in normal Vimshotri and Venus in Adana Vimshotri. And we can see that Venus is in the 7th house, in the house of marriage, and Moon is in the 12th house. So one is also get married in the house of the 12th house. Very often the 12th house is related to Neshta Graha. Neshta means in Sanskrit the priest, which is bringing the spouse to us. So this is very often that the planet related to 12th house will indicate the time of marriage in the Rasi chart. And at the time of Rahu on the Vimshotri Dasha, the spouse, the Alfred Conrad, committed suicide. And this was already following their split in the mid-1917, because they were also involved in this, very much involved in this political movement, and somehow this also was a cause of their split. We see that in the Rasi chart, in the main chart, the Rahu is the 6th lord in the 8th house, so it's very negative yoga. And the Mars is in Kendra. So the Rahu and Mars are working together. This Rahu-Mars yoga is indicating bombs or something very negative. And we can be sure that this is related to a spouse now, because 6th lord could indicate many things. It could indicate enemies, it could indicate some kind of community. 8th house could also show our type of ailments and so on. But we know that this is related to marriage because Venus is in 7th house, so this Rahu will be in the 2nd house from the Venus. So now the 2nd house from Venus will show sustenance of marriage. So when the Rahu is there, 6th lord in the 8th, which may show end of relationship due to death of spouse, and this is in 2nd for Venus, so we are quite sure. And especially this is confirmed because Rahu is in 8th house in the Sagittarius, aspected also by Mars. So this yoga will then totally confirm that this negative event will take place in exactly this time of Rahu. So we also see that in the Navamsha, how to distinguish between these two partners. The first partner, Alfred Conrad, he was the professor of economics. So the 7th lord is Ketu, which is related to numbers, and this is a Mercury sign, which shows someone who is doing with economics. There is a very much connection to the Jupiter and the 10th house, which shows that this could be a person who is teaching. And we know that her second serious relationship with Michelle Cliff, we have to see 8th house from the 7th in the Navamsha for the second relationship. And then we have a Mercury and Moon, and Mercury and Moon yoga shows either a doctor or someone who is having some kind of shop, or most likely editor or writer. And Michelle Cliff was editor and writer, very much related to politics, because we see that the 2nd lord Mercury is again with the Moon. Moon shows social things, and this is confirmed because it's in Leo, and Leo has to do with politics. So we can say that the second marriage is with someone like her, someone who is writing, someone who is doing politics and all that. And this all happened in the Narayana Dasha, just the beginning of Narayana Dasha, related to a Venus in the 7th house. So this is showing that, oh, now the serious relationship of something very serious is happening. And because it is Atma Karaka, it shows that her soul is like being reborn, like she is getting some awareness. Now she is getting some kind of reflection. Very strong reflection is coming because the Atma Karaka is, we could say, awoken. And she also admitted that in her first marriage, she was kind of forced. And we can see 7th lord in the 5th house in Navamsha being forced. And she said about it that she was escaping from her family life to that relationship. And then the second relationship, which she really defines as something like awakening, with the Michelle. In the second relationship, she get into more contact with herself. She is more awakened. So her relationship with Michelle Cliff was something which started her real relationship. And this is this awakening of a Venus Atma Karaka in the 7th house. And we see that, very interestingly, this is also 2nd lord in the Rasi chart, which shows the second relationship. But the nature of the person is the Mercury and Moon, so this is the writer, right? So we could say that very nicely it shows that the Rasi chart still shows what is the impact on you. So Venus Atma Karaka in the 2nd lord, which shows that it's awakening, it's a love, it's really something very important now happening. Whilst in the Navamsha, we see that 2nd lord is Mercury and Moon, and this shows this person, this partner of us. So this is the person related to writing and editor and so on. So Michelle was like that. So this example very nicely shows the 7th lord, 2nd lord, Venus position, the difference between the Rasi and Navamsha. We can also see that her Upapada, the first Upapada, because 12th lord Sun is in the 9th house, so the first Upapada will jump to the 3rd house, but again 9th is stronger, so the 9th house with Jupiter shows the first spouse was that professor, very intellectual person. And we see here that the 3rd from the Upapada, which shows what is the cause of demise of the first spouse. We can also see that from Upapada. This is very interesting, and this is really crazy that we can see that. This 3rd from Upapada is that Mars there. so that Mars, and in Navamsha that's related to Rahu, so this shows that there is very unfortunate cause of demise for the second partner, and this is related to a moon sign, so this may indicate some decisions like suicide and so on. And her second Upapada will fall in Sagittarius, and this is a Saturn sign in the 4th house, but the Lord is Jupiter with Mercury, so it shows that the person is a very much intellectual writer and so on, as the Michelle, the second partnership of her. Okay, so going back to the original question, the 7th Lord in the 9th house here, the connection between the Venus and Jupiter basically shows someone who is very broad-minded. Venus is exalted in Rasi Navamsha. This shows very high ideals. So person is very much focused on movement of freedom related to relationship. So this is the Venus is also very much planet which is related to activism, and 7th house also is related to war, fighting with someone, the revolution. So this Venus 7th house, I have few examples of my friends with that combination. So they all have very high ideals when it comes to relationship, and they have very feminist views when it comes to relationship. And the 2nd house from Venus, we see here how when the Rahu Dasha came exactly in the 2nd from Venus, this is, we can use that with timing, and you can also use that to see what is sustaining, afflicting, what are the factors which can either protect or affect the relationship. And this works for all relationship. And I also have shown you how the 7th Lord is showing in the Navamsa, the first relationship. We remember it was Ketu in the Mercurial sign. So Ketu shows numbers, Mercury shows economics. And we also see that Ketu is debilitated, and Mars in the 5th house was showing this forced marriage. Now we also see that her second marriage was the 2nd Lord Mercury with the moon in the Leo. So this shows person who is editor, this was person who is publisher, writer, and working also with that social cultural, anthropological, gender studies. So this Mercury and Moon is very much connected to this, and also in the Leo sign will show that political blend. So this is really wonderful how it really works, the Vedic astrology, in the patterns, in a reliable way. It is repeating itself, so we can depend on this ancient knowledge. So it's really great. If you like this video, please hit the like button. If you'd like to be notified about similar videos in the future, please click the subscribe button. If you have any comments, please feel free to comment below. Subscribe for more, and see you in the next one.